The scope of this project is about to increase significantly, and I wanted to share with you why and what's happening. But first of all, I'd like to thank those of you that have subscribed to the channel following this. It's good to see so many people are interested in this car and what's going to happen with it. And believe me, it's about to get a lot more interesting because there's so much more to do now. The reason I've started filming this in the first place is this car isn't actually owned by me. It's actually my brother's. And the reason it's going on film is that he doesn't live in England, he lives over in Australia. So he actually bought this car about 18 months ago, no, just over a year ago, and hasn't yet seen it. So lockdown and everything like that has happened. And so the reason for videoing all of this primarily is for him to be able to see what I'm doing to his car. The reason the scope of this project has changed is my brother happened to bump into someone who lives just near where he's moved to in Melbourne, who also has a Series 1 E-Type. But their advice to him was, get the car done up in the UK and then ship it over. It's not to say that there aren't people in Australia with the skills, it's just that there are a lot more broad-based skills and options on how to solve things here in the UK. And certainly in terms of parts suppliers and specialists, there's no competition. So what I want to do is explain to you the change of scope and what we're now planning on doing with the car and why. So a key factor with an E-Type is how it looks, and the coupe is generally regarded as the best looking version. Bit of an eyesore on this car, of course, is this black Webasto roof that contrasts with this the red colour. The plan is to change this back to the solid metal roof that it should have had and it had when it was built. Of course, this was fitted by the second owner in the early 1970s. So I've been in touch with Martin Roby, the Jaguar parts specialist in Nuneaton, so not too far from Coventry. And they've put me in touch with a company called RS Panels. And it turns out that they've done some other Webasto roof infill panels recently, and they've got one already English wheeled to the right profile to fit this car. So one of the things that we're going to be doing is I'm going to be welding in the infill panel into this roof. Now, of course, as soon as I've done that, then it begs the question, do we respray it in this red colour, or do we actually go a step further and return the car to its original opalescent silver grey colour? So here are some pictures of the car from the early 1970s when it was with its second owner, guy in the middle of the picture there called John. Shortly after I picked up the car, October 2020, I typed the registration into Google and found that John had actually been searching for the car and left an email address. I was thrilled when he replied to me, and we've been corresponding ever since, and very kindly he sent me these pictures through of the car in its earlier life. Now, as you can see, back then it had American Amco grille bars fitted, some natty period wing-mounted rearview mirrors, as well as a tow bar, which John tells me he used to tow his racing dinghy with, which is pretty cool. Now, John tells me he remembers the car as being gunmetal, and to my eyes, the car certainly looks that in the pictures. But you can see from the original logbook, it's down as silver grey. So at some point, we'll obviously have to decide what colour it is actually going to be. My thanks to John for sharing all this valuable information with me, and I hope to reunite him with his old car. So for those of you that have been watching the episode so far, you'll notice I've taken the rear suspension off and I'm rebuilding that. But before I put it back on again, ideally what I want to do is have an underbody, or at least in this area of the car, an underbody that's the colour of the car that we're going to have once it's resprayed. So either I refurbish it in red and the roof is resprayed red, or we decide to go for the colour change and I need to respray this part of the underbody in opalescent silver grey. Another reason for having the car restored here in the UK is that the chrome work can be done at a number of different places that specialised in classic car chrome work. Not too long ago, I had my 1968 Jaguar S-Type bumpers and various other chrome trim parts replated at a place in Coventry called Mark Restore. Now, speaking to the guy who runs that, his dad worked for Jaguar back in the day, took my bumpers and said, oh yeah, these have never been re-chromed, and he explained the reasons why. So in terms of having the skills, having a competitive industry, and different options to choose from, it does make an awful lot of sense. And there's another small example on the inside of the car here that I just wanted to point out. On my 1968 S-Type, I wanted to get the clock working again, which is very similar to the one that's mounted in the rev counter on the E-Type here. It turns out that about 10 miles away from where I live, there's a guy that does a printed circuit board that you can fit within the existing mechanism and actually get these old clocks working again. And it's just another example of the kind of specialist skills that are here in the UK now. So the implications of a colour change of this car are very significant. It's not just the exterior colour that needs changing. As soon as you lift up the bonnet, you see all of the under bonnet here needs changing. We've got the frame that the engine mounts to and the bulkhead. In order for that to be done, the engine needs to come out. If the engine comes out, it may as well be rebuilt. And of course, if you looked at the previous episodes on the carburetors, I've got a friend who rebuilds classic engines to a very high standard. So it makes absolute sense to get that done. Again, do it once, do it properly. The fact is, though, that the increase in project scope is very exciting. And I hope you can join us on the journey, as I'll be posting videos as we make progress.